Hi there, folks. It's the WP-Tonic Roundtable Show. It's episode 209. We've got a fantastic panel this week, and we got a great main topic. We're going to be talking about tips and tricks around e-commerce. And I'm going to let my panel introduce themselves first, and I'm going to let Sally do that. Go on, introduce yourself, Sally.
Certainly. My name is Sally Getch. My business is WP Fangirl. I mostly do Genesis themes for small businesses and nonprofits. And I'm also the organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup in Oakland, California.
And Mendel, like to introduce yourself?
Whoa, John just appeared. It was crazy. Hey, hello. I'm Mendel. I work for GoDaddy and work on the GoDaddy Pro team, and it's fun. And today I'm drinking GT's Energy Kombucha. So how's that for product placement nobody expected?
So that's why you're so hyper, is that it?
Yeah, there's literally nothing in here. I haven't even had coffee. Anyway, all right, I'm done introducing myself.
Oh, that's great. Adam, would like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name is Adam from WPCrafter.com, where I make WordPress tutorial videos. You can find me youtube.com/WPCrafter.
Are you drinking or taking anything that can make you happy?
No, I got this stuff called Mugi Cha.
Well, that sounds interesting.
Yeah,
sounds like a bear hug.
Yeah, exactly. It's a Japanese thing.
Oh,
Japanese wife.
All right. John, my beloved co-host, not to introduce yourself?
Definitely. My name is John Locke. Sorry I came in late. I was having a little bit of technical difficulty with the internet this morning. My business is Lockdown Design, serving up SEO and custom WordPress theme development for mid-sized companies. And today I'm drinking, as same as always, every day, black coffee.
Black coffee.
Ooh.
How much of that do you have a day?
Way too much.
And you probably have more when you're actually dealing with me, aren't you, John?
Nah, it's all the same.
Yeah. No, that's when he needs the tranquilizers.
All right. Thank you, Sally. Thank you. So me, I'm the founder of WP-Tonic. We're a maintenance service advice company. You'd be amazed the questions we're asked by our clientele, but they're always welcome. And we've been doing that for the past 2-3 years. So let's go into our news topics to start off with, folks. And first of all, we're starting with something from the tavern, as I always do. And it's Vanguard plugin. Author shuts down Splog hunting service due to trauma and death threats. It's getting that bad in WordPress, folks. You get death threats. No. What did you think of it, Sally?
It sounded like it was a pretty gruesome experience for him. I mean, I had heard of this plugin, which was particularly recommended for people who were running multi-site networks, where basically you created your own blog network and pretty much anyone could start a blog to keep things out. But the thing that was traumatic for the developer was that it wasn't just algorithms that were trying to find offensive material. He was in fact going through a large amount of it himself, and it was offensive beyond what he thought was basically humanly possible. And it sounds miserable, and like you'd have no choice but to step away from it, either from deciding to switch to a completely automated version of some kind so you don't have to look at it, or just from I think people sometimes put up with things longer than they should, and then it's really too late for them to do anything in a way that would let them stay with it, because they've just gone past their level of tolerance. And unfortunately, humanity is often not very nice.
Nice, good, flexible. Flexibility is the key, isn't it? For good or bad. What did you think of it, Mendel?
Yeah, it sucks. I'm sad every time I see somebody's ingenuity or creativity stamped out by somebody that's a bad actor, or somebody that anybody really. honest, true, innocent creativity, or do-gooders shouldn't experience stuff like that. I could go into a long diatribe on the legal system and everything like that, but I won't. I'll spare everybody. I just think it sucks. Creativity and ingenuity lost on threats, which sucks. So.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, and Sally's point was fantastic as well. I think it was a combination of some threats, actually having to look at some of this awful stuff. What did you think, Adam?
Well, I just got educated by Sally on what the heck a splug is in the first place. But it's just sad stuff, these things that happen on the internet, and a guy, apparently no one really that was using the service wanted to contribute to him to be able to fund the thing. The guy's been funding this thing out of his own pocket. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you're like, what am I putting myself through this for anyway? That's why I think it's good to support developers that are doing things that benefit you, just to help keep it going and to keep them motivated. But hopefully someone can adopt this project or something. He'll let someone take it over, maybe like a Securi or something like that. Mendel can jump in on this, something like this.
Yeah, but no, I think I'd be surprised if somebody doesn't take it on. But yeah, that was another good point, Adam, that nobody you can't contribute to every plugin you use, but there's a group of plugins that I do use almost on every site, and I do send some money to the developer, even if it's free, because I've used them on so many sites, and I don't really want them to go away and have the problem of finding a replacement. So it's also self-serving, but I think if you're using a plugin that regularly on multiple sites and you're making money from sites, you do have some obligation to send a little bit of money. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I definitely think that it's sad that Vanguard is shutting down. I have at least a couple of clients who have used it successfully.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
I haven't.
In the past, yeah. But yeah, what he was detailing in the article, it was very horrific, and there are some dark corners of society. There are some dark portions of the web, and definitely there's some evil out there in the world for sure. So hopefully somebody like Securi or WordFence or somebody else will adopt this plugin.
Be clear. Sorry to cut you off, John.
Jump in.
I think so. This plugin. I just want to make sure I'm talking about the same thing. This plugin called an API, and that API was able to determine whether or not a site was sending spam and able to block it. Is that the idea?
Yeah, essentially, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, so I guess what's interesting in this situation is that there are a lot of managed hosts in the world that are trying to defend against these particular types of issues, and so it seems like this was kind of a stopgap for consistency. That it doesn't matter what host you're on, right? You install this plugin, you use the service, and you get that protection. I think it maybe highlights some inconsistency in the marketplace with the strength of different companies and how they protect against these types of issues. So I don't know, just something interesting there. Maybe the plugin doesn't have to exist, but maybe this highlights something that then companies can go take back and say, whoa, maybe we should have been looking at things in a more detailed or different way. So I don't know.
You highlight you highlight, I'm sorry to cut you out, Jonathan. You highlight a really good point, Mendel, where it is a stopgap because there are some hosts that try to actively prevent spam and other security threats like this, but not all hosts do that, and that is
and not all of them do it the same way, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I think we'll go on to the next story, which I got originally from managedwp.org. If you're looking, folks, for some good WordPress stories, latest stuff, go to their site. It's one of the resources that I use. And it was WordPress.org needs to make uninstall options compulsory. And that's on Kevin Muldoon's website. There'll be links and some notes on the WP-Tonic website if you want to read the full article. And it's about, something that I agree with about, if you uninstall a plugin, it leaves a load of crap normally with a lot of them. What did you think of that one, Mendel?
Yeah, to standardize options, I think it's just part of the maturity of the ecosystem. So right now, I'm trying to think of an example of this in recent history. But I mean, there are design standards, there are coding standards for plugins, and it probably is not a bad idea to add in, an option to say, a mandate to say your plugin must have the option to uninstall everything, or uninstall and leave the data behind. I think it's totally reasonable. I don't see any collision with any competing priority of the project. So.
Yeah, it's quite surprising. You would have thought to get in the depository that would be a requirement in a way. It's quite interesting. What's your thoughts about that, John?
Well, some plugins, they have like the uninstall options and some don't. Like with some plugins, you can completely remove the plugin, put it back in again, and then all your settings are still there because they're hiding in the database. I think just for purposes of speed, I mean, I think having an uninstall option would be good to where you don't have a bunch of orphaned or just dormant things in your database. So, yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, because it's something you should be aware of, folks. Playing on your live site and keep installing uninstalling plugins on a regular is not a fantastic practice. But secondly, it does leave a load of crap behind normally, which in the end can bite you. What did you think about this, Sally?
Well, I think he makes an extremely valid point. And, if you've ever found yourself looking through a database of a site that's been around for a while and gone through some evolutions, you're going to find, maybe dozens of orphan tables. And even harder to clean out are, the orphan options. And if you have too many rows in your options table, it really starts to affect your site performance. And there was a nice article about this. It might have been on Kinsta. It might have been on Delicious Brains. I have it bookmarked somewhere. But basically about, how much difference it can make to clean out your options table. And that's not like for the faint of heart. Unless you really know what you're doing, you can screw some stuff up by deleting the wrong options. So I think it just makes sense to say, to have that, remove all options and data, blah, 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 or, not. And clearly, it's not that it's so difficult to do. I think it's just that hasn't been required by, in order to get in the plugin repo. And, I'm sure that makes, some extra work for the hapless volunteers managing the plugin repo, but it's probably not that hard to, add that step of ticking the boxes.
Yeah, great stuff. Sally, what do you think, Adam?
Well, I hate the fact that WordPress is becoming like a PC computer. You install that application, then you go to remove that application to find out there's a bunch of crap still there. It really stinks. Now, I don't know how much of this is like the OCD in me, you know what I mean? Obsessive compulsive disorder. I don't have that, but that's used as just a normal term, not to offend anyone that has OCD for real. But I will say that I don't know how much it might really slow down the database. I know there's plugins that will scan your database and it will find orphan tables and all the little orphaned, all these poor little orphans, But I know for me, I hate the fact that I have to put so much thought before I install a plugin on my website, because with a computer, you could just reformat, reinstall, and you could do all that, but you're not doing that with your website, especially if it's your livelihood. You can't reformat that sucker. You know what I mean? You're stuck with it the way that it is, and you might not want to have to hire a WP-Tonic Jonathan to fix it when your site is so slow because you installed some random stuff. Stuff like this just makes sense. I mean, it really just makes sense. And all those tools are so dangerous to use anyway. You could delete the wrong table and you're not aware that this table, blah, blah, blah. Okay, you get the point. Makes sense.
You do. You made some good points there. And, one thing, folks, like what Adam said, there are some plugins that will help you clean out orphan tables. Please don't use that on your live website because it can really go pear-shaped quite rapidly. And
yes, this is the article. It was from 10up, and don't try this at home.
I've had a few people do that, and they come running there, sorting one of those out right at the present moment, actually, funny enough. So on to the last story of the day, which is a sad one, really, but Jess Peterson, founder of Genesis.me, has passed away. I didn't know Jess personally. I knew of him, and I knew of his work in the Genesis community. He had a long-term illness that he dealt with great courage, and he has a young family and a wife. What are your thoughts about this, Sally?
So I was very distressed to get this news yesterday morning. Jesse and I worked together intensely on the Now Secure project last year, 4 months, and he was terrific to work with. He's a great front-end developer and a just really nice all-around human being. And I knew he had cystic fibrosis, and he was waiting for a double lung transplant, and it took too long, basically. People are really upset, and it's, I think probably by the time this goes live, it's not going to be breaking news to anybody, but I wanted to make sure that we addressed it for a couple of reasons. One is there is a donate page if you want to help out his family. And the other is that, I was trying to think about, well, what can I do? Because right now I'm not in a good position to make financial contributions. And I realized that probably the best thing to do was make sure that I was registered as an organ donor. And I had done this, on my last driving license renewal, but you can go to go to organdonor.gov and find out where your state registry is if you would like to do this. And it's, the problem isn't just that there aren't enough people who volunteer, it's that the circumstances of your death, if you want to donate your organs, basically you have to be, arrive at the hospital pretty much brain dead, but with everything else intact, because they have to keep you alive artificially until they can perform the surgery, and there's tissue matching, and there's a lot of complications. So it's really a tough row for anybody who needs who needs an organ replacement. It doesn't take very long to sign up for this if it's something you want to do. And I'll make sure we put the donation link into the show notes for anybody who wants to help out. And it's been lovely to see the way the community has come together and responded. And you know, that as much as we have WP drama, often enough over, you know, stupid things that people in the WordPress community do actually care about each other and try to help each other out in difficult times.
I think you made some great points, and also I'm actually on my driving license. I've part that scheme as well, because I've known a few people that have died waiting for transplants, and I think it's something you should really, unless you've got very strong religious issues, I think it's something you should really consider. I don't know if any of the other panel got anything to add to Sally. If not, I think we should go for our break. Has any of the other panel got anything to add to what Sally has said? No, right. I think we're going to go for our break, folks, and we're going to come back to our main topic, which is going to be about e-commerce tricks, tips, general advice, anything we can throw into the second part of this show. We'll be back in a minute, folks. We're coming back. Got a nice panel here. We had some fun, as we always do. And we're going on to our main topic, which is going to be e-commerce. So I'm going to start with my co-host, John. How are we going to start this conversation? Have you got any kind of overall kind of things that you think, if somebody's starting an e-commerce site with Woo, any tips or insights that you might start us off with, John?
So I guess it really depends. I mean, most people start with the e-commerce site. They might just build one using something like WooCommerce because there's so many pieces that you can, build a site with. And I think for that, there's some good resources that you can look at for getting some advice. Our friend Bob WP, he has a whole section on his site. He has a whole podcast dedicated to e-commerce. So check that out. Also, one of our past guests, Becca Rice, she writes the Sell with WP blog.
That's a great blog, isn't it, John?
That is a really good blog. And like I said, and she's all, like I said, you could also follow her, her company, Skyverge. They create a lot of the extensions for WooCommerce.
Oh, she really, her and her crew really know what they're talking about, don't they?
Agree. MailChimp actually has a newsletter that's geared specifically toward people who have e-commerce stores, and I think it's called What's in Store. So that's definitely something to check out too. I mean, as far as like marketing tips and just general tips, those are good places to go. I think if you're more toward the programming end of, if you're wanting to build some sort of e-commerce plugin or platform, there's a couple of people in the WordPress community that you could definitely follow. Patrick Rowland, I think he was on WP-Tonic back when it was you and Bill. Yeah,
he's gone freelance, hasn't he? He was adopted by when Woo got bought out, didn't he? But now he's gone, for the past year, he's gone freelance, hasn't he?
Yeah, definitely. But he has a site called Patrick's Programming Blog. I think that's a great place to start. He also has a bunch of courses up on Lynda, along with some other people, and we'll link that up as well.
Super great guy, very knowledgeable. Highly recommend him, folks.
Yep. And the other guy I would recommend within the WordPress community, when it comes to specifically about e-commerce, is Daniel Espinoza. He definitely has a lot of information on his site, which is shopplugins.com. So we'll link all this up in show notes as well.
That's great. What about you, Mindel? Got any suggestions and that?
Yeah, I didn't. Maybe I missed it, but I didn't hear you mention Chris. He just reviews plugins. So Chris Lemma is a great resource. Yep. When you're starting out, I told you I was going to bring the controversy today. So when you're starting out building an e-commerce site, my brother, great example, he has a website called coinguitarpicks.com, right? And he sells guitar picks made out of coins. And he originally had his shop on, I can't remember. Maybe it was GoDaddy's shop, like proprietary shop platform, and then on WooCommerce, right? The point was, it was easiest for him to get an out of the box experience from any number of hosted online shops. Right? It doesn't have to be GoDaddy, but there are a ton of them, right? And so I'm all about testing and prototyping. So if you have an idea for a shop, a lot of people will say, oh, you want to do it on WooCommerce because you want to be able to expand and it's going to cost you less and stuff like that. Guys, it really doesn't matter if you're only selling one thing per month, right? So my piece of advice is start small. If you're technically inclined, then swing your own WooCommerce site around and play with that for a while. If not, don't feel bashful about going to a hosted shopping provider. And then once you see their success there, talking to somebody about migrating to something that's easier to manipulate and more customizable, like WooCommerce.
Yeah, I can definitely see where you're coming from, Mendel. What do you think, Sally?
Okay, so I think we have, a couple of different issues here. One is do you want to learn about e-commerce because you want to start a store yourself? Do you want to learn about e-commerce because you want to build stores for other people? Yeah. Those are somewhat different issues. And I'd say probably in either case, what you want to start with is learning about legal and business requirements for having any kind of a store at all. Because oh, surprise, sales tax. What do I do with this? Oh, there are issues involved in having a store for most kinds of things that are going to be your issues, whether you have a physical store or an online store, and irrespective of what kind of a of a service that you might use, or even if you're just going to stick a PayPal button on your site because you're only selling one thing. And so, you need to find out some things about this, what kind of requirements about who are you required to collect taxes from, and on what kinds of products, and where do you remit them, and when are they due, and things like that. If you have physical products that you need to ship, how are you going to handle shipping? There's a ton of decisions you have to make before you can start looking for what sort of software solution or store service you want, because otherwise you don't know what you need. Do you need something that's going to allow you to do, both digital and physical goods? Are you only selling digital goods? Are you, that kind of thing? Because, if you're only selling digital goods, and particularly if you're, you want to sell, themes or plugins, for instance, something like, EDD with a software licensing add-on might be better for you than WooCommerce. And I think if you're thinking about building these things for people, you have to invest. It is inevitable, right? Nobody ever calls me except when I'm on this call, you need to invest time learning about a lot of these different sorts of things, because people are going to want you to configure their taxes and their shipping and all their other things, and to know something about what's right. I would tend to agree that unless you know that you have a market already, investing the combination of money and time that goes into having a self-hosted WooCommerce site with a bunch of extensions might not be a good idea any more than it would necessarily be a good idea to get a lease on a store and buy a lot of equipment when you don't know if there are enough people to sustain it. Because of the internet, it's possible to have really specialized businesses that wouldn't succeed locally, but you still want to you still need to to think about those kinds of things. And, I happened to learn some stuff about e-commerce, before WordPress was a thing, because I had a housemate who sold some products online through, God knows, whatever, horrible sort of solution was provided by her, hosting company at the time. And just so I knew something about, the kinds of taxes and how that sort of thing worked. But, go find those things out for yourself if you're going to have a store. And usually you can find out, research, just Google like sales tax, name of your state, and you will find out who that stuff has to be remitted to. And they'll have information for business owners and about things like, do you need to get a seller's permit and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think that's great stuff. My before we go to Adam, the things I would say, folks, is that I would imagine that who's going to be listening to this podcast around this subject are either you're a developer doing your first WordPress or your first e-commerce sites, and then there are maybe people actually thinking of starting their first store. And what I would say to you folks is, first of all, try and keep it as simple as possible. If this is either you're a developer consultant or you're doing this yourself, try and keep it as simple as possible. It's really quite easy to get carried away. The more carried away you get, the more complicated this is going to be. When it comes to actually sales tax, no, you can make this a bit complicated, folks, because Nevada, I think there's about 4 to 5 states that allow the different counties to add a little bit onto the state sales tax, and Nevada is one of these. And there's quite a few canned systems that can't deal with that. The way that when I was consulting was I advised clients to do a mean average to keep it simple. And also you got to be up to date with the national law, which has changed over the past couple of years about the collection of sales tax. But there are resources on there. Also, to be truthful, if you're a developer starting on this road, I think you really want to have WooCommerce, but you should also be familiar with a hosted solution, because I don't really think recommending a hosted WooCommerce all the time, you're really doing the best. It's the best option for a lot of clients initially. I agree with Mendel that a hosted solution for a lot of initial clients is a better solution than going to WooCommerce. And the one I used to use was Shopify, and I would still highly recommend it. So there's just a few things I'll plant in your mind. Got any insights, Adam, about this?
Well, I think my overall philosophy with business, and that's what e-commerce is business, is I subscribe to the whole MVP concept, which stands for minimum viable product. And that essentially is a methodology where you're like, what is the minimal amount of effort or resources I could put into something just to see if it works, and then regroup and make it better. So this allows me, like for instance, my YouTube channel, I just threw up a couple videos one day. I was thinking MVP, put very little effort into it, and then it took off and blew up, and then I made everything better then. I didn't put the money and the effort in up front. I put the minimum in and then went forward with it. And e-commerce could be a very daunting thing, right? It's certainly if this is the first website or whatever, and there's no existing audience or brand or something like that, you got to go the MVP route, because you could spend like weeks putting together an amazing e-commerce website that no one goes to or ever purchases anything, and you're like, oh man, crap, I could have done a lot of better things in my time. That's like
money, right?
Exactly. Oh, yeah, and I didn't even talk about money too. And so, like Mendel was saying, and I think you were just saying a second ago, Jonathan, if you're tested out with Shopify, you know what I mean? You're not going to have to spend a lot of effort. It's all hosted, and there's a learning curve with that too, right? I'm not saying
it's not
that
as simple as that. Some people push it, but compared to WooCommerce,
yes, but you're eliminating okay, now I need to learn WordPress and what a page is. You're eliminating, I need to find a web host and what is a good web host and a web host for e-commerce. So you could start somewhere, just get started. I'll tell you, for me, MVP all the way. I used WooCommerce in the beginning. I don't use it right now. I threw it in there, and I decided that this isn't getting me where I want to go, and I switched gears. But I did that after, as a minimum viable product type of approach. So get started. I'm all about getting started, not to go against what anyone said about some of the legal ramifications. And some of the tax ramifications. You can fix all that once you prove your concept. You might have to pay some penalties and fines, but you can. I want people to get started. I want people to jump in, feet first, shotgun approach, and get started with things. And you guys already covered all the fantastic resources, but I just want people to get started.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from, but I think that was music to the Californian tax board. But
no doubt. I've gotten into trouble before. It's nothing that a big fat check to fix it won't fix. But that's only if hold on. That's only if your concept worked in the first place. So the money should be there, right?
Yeah. I'm just kidding you, but they have got a gruesome reputation. I mean, don't go down that road, John. John, what about shipping? That's the other area which people don't really probably spend enough time, and that they should really go for, I think they should go for the most simplest, which is drop shipping, really. What's your thoughts about that, John?
So, I mean, drop shipping can work in certain cases, but a lot of people who are starting e-commerce stores, they might be working out of their house. Yeah. Their spare bedroom might be their warehouse, or a business that is, they're selling physical goods, and they might be having to ship across country or to different states. And so there's a couple things that you would need to know. And one of them is knowing how to tax your product. And there is an article we'll link up. It's from TaxJar. And it talks about knowing what the nexus of your business is. Basically, anywhere that you have a base of operations, whether it's an office, a warehouse, or anything else like that, can be the nexus of your operations. And the tax rules basically operate like that. Now, there's a handful of states that don't charge sales tax. Some states operate with it's the state that you're shipping from. You're based on your tax rate. Some of it's based on where you're shipping to. In WooCommerce, there's settings for setting like how you want to assess sales tax. So that's the first thing. Now, when it comes to shipping, this is a big logistic thing that you have to figure out. And we ourselves kind of learned this from a little e-commerce enterprise that we had going for a little bit. Knowing how much it's going to cost to ship stuff is very important. And what I would recommend is choosing how you're going to do it. Are you going to ship through UPS? Are you going to ship through the Postal Service? Are you going to ship through DHL or FedEx or somewhere else? And what I would advise people to do is have some sort of shipping calculator on your site. Choose who you're going to use to ship things. Have a shipping calculator. WooCommerce has lots of extensions for that. One thing that can be a real gotcha is if you don't have shipping and you just kind of bake it into the cost of your product, sometimes that'll favor you and sometimes it won't. So my advice is if you're shipping to a whole bunch of different places, use an extension that works with your provided your not your provided, but your preferred logistics partner. So
I'm going to say something to you, John.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's a little bit controversial, but when I had people come to me, what I suggested was that they work out they really did need stick with one shipper, right? Like what you said. And then I would say to, find out how heavy it is and find out your mean average and then put another 10 to 20% on it and say you did, and bun that on everything and said you did free shipping. But nothing is ever free.
Yeah. And I want to address that too, because that's a great point. Now that can work beautifully if all your products are a similar size and weight. Now, if you have a bunch of different size products and a bunch of different weight products, and I have clients that run into this as well, and and I've experienced this as well. You can really get got. Yeah. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, so. That's the problem, folks. Don't do what I've just said if that's the case, because you're going to get your ass. But
you also have, we didn't talk about Amazon FBA, meaning you can have a website with information about your products, but people can actually make the purchase on Amazon, and Amazon takes care of all of that for you, and you can get traffic through Amazon to your product if you do some things right. I know they do take a hefty cut. They take, I think, it starts at like 35% or something, but as you get volume, you can negotiate that cut down. But you're not shipping, you're not fulfilling, you're not taking orders, you're not doing refunds, you're not doing any of that. You could just sell, market, and promote.
Yeah, it's a great, and I put them on. They're the lead drop shipper category. I think before I ask Mendel some thoughts, the other area that I've heard regularly is a lot of people, and it's linked to websites. Even in 2017, people got this thing. They get fixated about the technology. They're fixated about actually building, even though it can be painful, especially if you keep moderating the scope creep. And scope creep, when it comes to e-commerce, is notorious. But they get fixated about building the website. It's not your problem. And they've got this thing that Adam touched on, that our audience is just going to appear, that traffic is just going to come to the site because you're there. No. No. What do you think, Mendel, about what I've just said?
Yeah, so I'm going to address that and the drop shipping thing at the same time. So drop shipping is super easy with two websites in particular. One of them is called ShipStation.com. It connects you to all sorts of different services like Amazon, and there's just a list of them. So that's really useful. The other thing is Printful. So if you haven't used Printful, they have an amazing API. It's expensive, but it works. And so I throw those two out there because you can go to those websites, you can look at them, you can implement it very quickly into your Shopify account, into your WooCommerce account. However, everybody else can do the exact same thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you say that you're going to sell mugs that have a smiley face emoji on them, there are like 16 other people that are selling that same thing on Amazon or on Google Shopping or whatever. There are definitely tactics to get your unique product out there. But I think you have to realize that there's a lot of competition, especially in the goods marketplace, right? And so, so Jonathan's point, you need to create the audience first, right? Mm-hmm. So create the audience first, or create the audience side by side while you're selling a few interesting products. And then you can look at selling more, right? Or you can look at expanding into the Amazon marketplace. I've been selling T-shirts for a while on a site I won't mention, but I've been selling T-shirts. The T-shirts aren't selling that well. So I at first I was like, oh, I'm going to sell these on Amazon too, and I'm going to sell them on eBay, and I'm going to sell them all. well, it doesn't matter, right? If I can't sell them on my website, why are they going to sell somewhere else? So find a product that works, then use one of those tools to make it, distribute. So ShipStation is for selling products, kind of more distribution stuff, and then Printful is really a great place to prototype stuff. I know a lot of people in the community that are selling mugs and T-shirts and hats and stuff like that are actually using. Actually, this was printed with Printful. So it's a great service. I have no horse in that race. I'm not an affiliate or anything.
Yeah, I think another thing, folks, is look at a niche, do some research, look at competitors. You won't be able to know their financials, but you will be able to get information about their traffic numbers to their website. And with a bit of education, there's plenty of resources. It's quite easy to make some estimation about how well they're doing by traffic and other metrics. And then really look at your competitor and can your site be more easier to use? Can you produce more content that is useful to your target audience? Because competing at price probably won't work when you're a small person, because you haven't got the volume. So you got to look, but one of the great things about e-commerce is you can compete through information. What do you think of that, John? Do you think I'm right about that at all?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that you can do for your e-commerce store is to not only compete through information, but to tell a better story. A lot of reason why people would choose your particular brand over just some generic brand on Walmart.com or Amazon is because they believe in your particular brand. And one way to do that is through telling your story of like why you founded the shop, what you're trying to accomplish with it, who you serve. But also what you want to do is, have some sort of ongoing content, because that is going to be a big differentiator between you and everyone else that's in your space that you're competing against. So.
Yeah, the other thing is, see who are the thought leaders in your niche market, who they are, what social platforms they regularly. Start stalking them, folks, in a very nice way. Start commenting, do it in a very respectful, non-aggressive way. The more influencers that you help, be helpful. A lot of people, you've got to be respectful of thought leaders' time, and they get approached by a lot of people. So you're going to have to be generous about what you're offering a thought leader. But work all this out. This is the way to market in 2017. What do you think about that, Mendel?
Yep. I agree, and that kind of goes into distribution, or sorry, not distribution, marketing store, right? And thought leaders are great. Instagram is a big deal for products, service stuff. There's a few people that have talked a bit about service businesses. Jennifer Bourne is one that comes to mind on the services side of things. She's pretty legit and has some good advice.
She's a smart lady.
Yeah. So just I guess look for those thought leaders. If anything else, just get a minute or two of their time in person and ask them a couple questions that can be pivotal in helping you determine the next step in your business. But keep in mind all of those. There are tons of ways to get the word out for free, and Facebook ads, Twitter ads are usually not the first place to go for that. So just consider that. Oh, and remember SEO. I'm a huge fan of Yoast stuff and the work they're doing around product SEO and things like that. So that's, again, free advertising. You don't have to do anything except expend some time, which we know is worth money, but it's worth less money than time plus money. So.
Yeah, I think I was listening to a podcast by Noam Kagan, and he was talking about, he gets approached by a lot of people who say, I'd like to have a chat, I'll buy you a coffee. And he's saying, I've got a coffee machine, guys. I don't need you buying me a coffee. Maybe if you bought me a decent lunch.
Ironically, I asked him if I could buy him a coffee, and we had coffee. So I don't know. Maybe he's gonna talk trash to me after if he hears that on this. But
yeah, but you're not a rando, and you're not one of these people saying, "I want to pick your brain." You know what I mean? Like if somebody the only people who picks your brains is zombies.
Another thing, I was listening to This Week in Startup with Jason, and he was talking about product fit, and he was saying, be aware that there's all segments of a product, and he used burgers as an example, folks. He said, there's people that just want a cheap burger, the people that want a medium burger, and there's people that want a connoisseur burger, that want, quite happy. There's people out there that are really happy and willing to spend $20 on a burger if it's the best burger that they could ever sample. So be aware that there's very different segments of a market, and you don't have to. That's the beauty of selling on the internet, folks, is that you don't have to, or you shouldn't really look at a industry or a sector and try and market to all of that. What's your feelings about that, Sally?
Hey, can I, before you answer, Sally, I just want to jump back really quick, one more step to the asking influencers for advice or asking experts for advice. Don't be afraid to do it. But my biggest piece of advice is have a thoughtful question. It's kind of the same as posting in forums, right? Have a thoughtful question and things that you've thought about or tried, that even if it's just a thought experiment, and make sure and articulate those things to whoever you're asking, and then bring that information back, utilize it, and then follow up and say, hey, thanks. I considered what you said and I implemented it, or I considered what you said and I thought it was crap. Whatever it is, but make sure that the person you're talking to knows that you didn't just take their advice with a grain of salt. And most people in the WordPress community are totally cool to talk. So anyway, sorry. Commence.
Right.
And if they sell something, buy it from them before you contact them.
Yeah, that probably help.
I love that. That's actually good advice.
Yeah,
yes, I think that it does demonstrate some respect. So I think Jonathan is completely right about the value.
Can you say that again, Sally?
I said I think you were completely right about the value of creating good content around your product. And if Jackie were here, she would say so also, because that was, what really worked for her in her early days of doing e-commerce, before WordPress was born, where, what she did was, she was selling garden kinds of things, and wind chimes, I know, were involved because she recorded like audio of all these things. So, to provide information about the product, about how to use the product, about and this is time consuming. And the thing is, a lot of your competitors are either not going to have the skill, the knowledge, the time, the something to do it. So if you can be, the definitive source of information about whatever it is you sell, and, how to make the best use of it, then that's going to be an advantage for you with people after they get to your site, and an advantage for you in getting people to your website in the first place.
Yeah, but it takes time, doesn't it? This is the thing.
Well, it does. Yeah, as content marketing is hard work, and that's why most people don't do it very well.
No, I think we're going to wrap up the podcast part of the show. We'll probably continue the discussion for 10, 15 minutes, which you'll find on the YouTube channel and on the show notes as well, folks. I think we've done a fantastic job. I really have enjoyed this roundtable show this week. I think it's been fantastic. I'm going to let the panel tell you how you can find out more about them and contact them. We'll start off with Sally. How can people find out more about you, Sally?
Sure. You can find me at WPFangirl.com. You can find the meetup at eastbaywp.com. I am at Sally Getch on Twitter, and if you can spell my name, you will find me anywhere. I'm unique in Google. That's
great. How can people find you, Adam?
You can watch my videos right now for free. Just go to youtube.com/WPCrafter or go to WPCrafter.com. And I just put a new video up while we were, right before we started this, about the easiest way to add online courses to your website. There's a really cool new plugin that just came out, and anybody can do it to any website. So go check that out.
Oh, I'm actually going to be interested in that myself. Mendel, how can people get hold of you?
Yeah, so I'm trying to establish my say read hook. Anyway,
you're extraordinarily fine.
They can get a hold of me at if you will it on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, wherever. Oh, and on the web, ifyouwillit.com. I will be at WordCamp DC and an event apart in DC this coming week. So if you're there, say what up. And of course, I do work on the GoDaddy Pro project, which interestingly enough is partly powered by Managed WP. And you can check that out at godaddy.com/pro.
It's a great program, actually. And John, how can people get hold of you? Are you with us, John? Are you muted?
Yeah, definitely, Mendel. Like, I am a GoDaddy Pro member. Good program. It makes things easier. If you want to find me, you can find me at my site, lockdowndesign.com. You can also follow me on Twitter, lockdown_. And for the man of the hour, Jonathan, how do we get a hold of you?
Oh, thanks, John. It's quite easy, folks. You can get me on Twitter at Jonathan Denwood. You can email me at jonathan@wp-tonic.com. I do answer any questions from listeners. It's great to hear from you. If you can do us a favor, folks, it really, 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 really helps the show is if you can give us an iTunes review. We've had a couple of new ones, but a lot of our ones are a little bit old, so it'd be great if we've got some new, fresh ones. iTunes just seems to love that. And like I say, I think this has been a great show. We'll see you next week for your dose of WP Tonic. See you next week, folks. Bye. So I think we just quickly continue the discussion. I do really honestly feel, and I like some reflection from the panel quickly, is that a lot of the people that I spoke to some of them really did have some good products, good ideas, but they had not really in any shape or form worked out what was necessary to market those products or services online at all. Is it something that you, by working with people, you've observed that the majority haven't got a clear idea how much work and what's going to be involved in that? Would you like to start off, John?
Yeah, definitely. I think it varies. I think a lot of the people who are solo business owners, I think it's hard for them. Yeah. That's who it's hardest for, because I think there's people that attempt to do content marketing, but it's really sporadic. And and this just seems to be just in general. I think once you get into an organization where you've got a couple people, it gets a little bit easier to do it. But I mean, the biggest thing with content marketing, if you're going to blog, if you're going to make videos, is the more you do it, the more success you're going to bring upon yourself. And keep a schedule. And one other thing too, I want to say too, when it comes to that, if you have like a piece of content, whether it's a video or a blog post or whatever, and people are responding to it, like asking follow-up questions, then make sure that you like reply back. So important. Like a lot of people miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, one of the things I always say is I respond to every single comment someone leaves me on YouTube. I actually couldn't do it without drag and dictate on my Mac because I'm not going to be sitting there like this. I respond to every email, every comment, every blog post comment. But you should also, in your content, you want to encourage or leave people with a parting thought where it will trigger them to leave a comment or ask a question. Even if they're asking a question where it requires you to give of yourself, that's how people make a connection to you, and that's how they're going to keep coming back. So I know for me in all my videos, at the very end, I think through a couple questions I can ask people, and I invite critique. So if you think I said it wrong, I want you to tell me just to get the conversation going, you know, and to make the connection and to be someone that can listen to that stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like, what about you, Mendel? What would you say about what we just said?
Yeah. No, same thing. Yeah, make a connection. And as people have already said, content marketing is hard, right? So give of yourself, but give of yourself where you're an expert. And if the business you're in is not something that you care about or that you're an expert in, then don't do it. Gary Vaynerchuk, I almost said Vaynerchuk said recently in one of his little videos on Twitter, he was like, if you're making money and you're making money just to make money, or if you're making money and hustling with something that you don't care about, eventually most people will realize that like that's not what life's about, right? So don't get in an e-commerce business just to turn a quick buck. Get into something that you actually enjoy. Now, if you enjoy building e-commerce sites and then flipping them and selling them, and that's something you truly enjoy, then do it. But most people think that they're going to get rich quick or turn a quick buck. And I don't know about everybody listening, but that's not what I want to tell people I do with my life.
I think it's just exactly like real life. You know, there are a number of people that are constantly on YouTube, using YouTube advertising, promoting how easy it was them to build a 6 to 7 figure business, and how you, by giving them gobs of money, can achieve that instantaneously yourself.
Here's my Lambro. Here's my rented. Here's all the books in my garage. Here's my big mansion. You can do it too.
Obviously, yeah, of course. I've been reasonably successful with life. I've had my ups and downs, mostly caused by myself and my own attitudes. I think you really got to look deep at yourself, and it's really hard to be honest about yourself as well. That's the thing. I think I would. My bit is I've learned an enormous amount from one of our panelists, Brian Jackson. I've learned enormous. He's spent a little bit of time with me, and he's actually he's been very open about how he has been successful, not in a dramatic way, but most of his ventures have had success to some degree. And a lot of it is doing SEO research and using a tool now that I regularly use, which is KW Finder, which isn't that expensive. Doing your research, and also I actually pay people to do some of my writing now because I suffer from dyslexia, and I really, when I actually get started, it's okay. I can actually knock it off, and then I get it proofread. It's actually getting going is the problem. I have a psychological blockage there a little bit. So what I do is I do the research, and then I use a company that Brian recommended to me called iWriter, and I get them to knock up an initial article, and then I expand it. I blow it out, and that's the methodology that I've been using, and it's helped a lot, really. So go to Brian Jackson's website. I keep plugging you, Brian. You need to come back onto this panel and read some of his articles, because it will give you a good framework about what you've got to do around this. What did you think about that, Sally?
I think you would have a point there, and I think kind of getting back to what John said about folks come into this and they don't understand about how much marketing is involved, and I think a lot of it is people come into it and they don't have, as Adam said, this is business. They maybe don't have a lot of background in business, and they haven't had experience with that and understanding about how much you need to do there, and that is one reason that it's important to start small, because otherwise you can spend a whole lot of time and money creating something, and you haven't done anything about marketing it, and now you're out of money, and nobody is coming to your store because they don't know it exists. And there are a lot of pieces involved. Business is hard. The fact that technology makes doing certain things easier than it used to be does not change the fact that there is a lot of work involved in running your own business, no matter what kind of business it is. And, you can't just, there really are no shortcuts. You can learn things from people who have been there before you for sure, but you're just going to have to put some work in and some time in and do some homework. And, even if you're, buying a franchise that's already, established and running, there's stuff that you have to learn about that to make a go of it. So, understand that it may turn out to be a get rich slow scheme, but it isn't going to be, there are no methods of getting rich quick.
No, unfortunately there isn't. All right, we're going to wrap out our YouTube and Facebook. I think it's been a great panel discussion. I've learned a lot myself, and I think we've provided enormous value to anybody who's either looking to develop sites, e-commerce sites for people, or thinking of doing one themselves. I think by listening to this or watching it, you should have learned a lot. And we'll see you next week, folks, for another WP-Tonic Roundtable show. Bye, folks.
Very dramatic. When I say something crazy, I'm going to put the light on, and then I'm gonna fade it away.
That's right.
Well, we are live now, Mendel, so you can do anything you like. So I'm going to start the show. I'm going to start the show.
Nobody's ever said anything crazy on this show before.